Hi Red Base, this is Miss D. I'm going to share a story with you today and it's called The BumbleBear. So the title of my story is called The BumbleBear and the author is Nadia Shireen. So let's open the book by turning the pages, making sure the book is the right way up, and now I'll start the story. Once there was a bear called Norman who loved honey. He really loved it. And he was always sad when it ran out. Can you see the honey in his hand? It says honey. It says honey. Let's turn the page and see what happens. But getting hold of more honey was always a bit tricky. If only I could be a bee, he sighed. I could have as much honey as I liked. Why do you think it was tricky for Norman to get honey? What can you see in the picture? Norman's running away. I wonder why. I wonder who's chasing him. Let's read the story. And then Norman had a quite amazing and brilliant idea. Can you see the light bulb above his head? He had a brilliant idea. Let's turn the page and see what happens next. It was an ordinary morning at B school. Let's have a look at B school. Some's playing on the swings. Some is writing. What else can you see at B school? What else can you see? I wonder if you can see the trees. Hello, bees, said the Queen, who was in charge. We have a new bee at B school today. Ooh, said the little bees. Everyone say hello to... Let's turn the page and see. Norman. Hello, said Norman. Ooh, said the little bees. Let's turn the page. Aren't you a bit big? Asked Amelia, who was a rather clever little bee. I'm a special bee, said Norman. I come from a land far away called Giant Bee Land. Said Amelia. But then it was time for lessons to start. I don't think Amelia believed him, do you? Let's turn the page and see. B School Daily Planner. Name Norman. Can you see what Norman did at school? First of all, he began the day with some painting. Then he joined in with buzzing practice. Buzz, buzz, buzz. And then everyone settled down for a nap. Zzz, they went to sleep. The bees showed him all sorts of games during playtime. Can you see that game that they showed him? It's got letters in it. Norman was brilliant at wiggle dancing. Look at him dancing. Are you good at dancing? And then it was time to go home. B school is amazing, thought Norman. He couldn't wait to come back the next day. Let's turn the page and see what happened the next day. The next morning was even better. Norman was very good at finding smelly flowers. You see, he found some flowers. The bees really liked him. He was so funny and friendly, and he always tried his best. Even during flying lessons. You see him having flying lessons. I think he fell on his head. Look at Norman. After lunch, the bees learned how to chase away anyone who came after their honey, like spiders, mice, toads, or bears. Amelia still felt there was something a bit odd about Norman. She tried to work out what it was. Can you see Amelia there with her book? Let's turn the page and see what happens next. Gasp, said Amelia. She was shocked. She looked in horror. Bears steal honey. Smells bad, roars a lot. Oh no, was her suspicions right? Amelia told the other bees what she had found out, but they didn't believe her. Of course Norman's a bee, they said. Just look at him. He is not a bee, and I shall prove it, said Amelia. Let's turn the page and see what Amelia does. She took Norman to the bees. She took Norman to the secret honey store. Well, when he saw all that honey, Norman just couldn't help himself. Honey, 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 honey. Oh, look at his face, his mouth. Oh, he was so glad his eyes popped. And he had a big smile on his face. Honey, honey, honey. Let's turn the page and see what he did. After all, he really, really, really loved honey. See, Norman isn't a bee, he's a bear, said Amelia. What? Gasped all the little bees. Said Norman. Let's turn the page and see what happens next. He was asked to leave bee school at once. Poor Norman. He sat all alone in the forest, on a stone, crying. He was so sad. Right, Red Base, that's the end of part 1 of the story. I'm going to read you part 2 in 2 minutes. I'll be back. Bye. Hi Red Base, it's Misty with part 2 of the story of the BumbleBear, written by Nadia Shireen. Now, where did we leave off? Norman was found out that he was not really a bee, he was a bear. And he was asked to leave bee school at once. There's Norman, all alone in the forest, sat on a stone, and he was crying. He was really sad, very sad. Do you know why he was sad? I think he was sad because he really, really wanted to be at bee school. Let's turn the page over and see what happens next. With Norman gone, things were very quiet at bee school. Norman was such a funny bee, sighed the bees. Norman was such a busy bee, sighed Amelia. Norman was a naughty bear, said the Queen, and bee school is no place for bears. But later that night, the bees heard a loud crash and a diabolical roar. Oh no, they cried, it's a bear. Can you see the bear? Can you see his eyes? He looks really frightening. Let's turn the page over quickly. And this bear was big, and this bear was nasty. And he trampled all over bee school. It grabbed the hive and started to shake it. Oh no, the bees tumbled out in a panic. They tried to chase the bear away, but it was just too big and too bad. Can you see the bear? How big and bad. But then, let's turn the page over and see what happened. But then, a fearsome, buzzing beast burst through the trees. Buzz! Eek! Said the giant bear. Eek! Squealed the bear. It's a giant bee! And it ran away as fast as it could. He was really scared of that giant bee. I wonder who the giant bee could be. Let's turn the page and find out. The bees were saved and Norman was a hero. Yes, it was Norman. They gave him a big pot of honey and the Queen presented him with a special award. Ooh, a special award. Can you see a special award? And his pot of honey. You definitely aren't a bee, said the Queen. But you are no ordinary bear. You are, I think, a BumbleBear. Norman was a hero. He was a BumbleBear. Let's turn the page and see what happens next. And BumbleBears were definitely allowed to go back to bee school. And this is the end. Norman is really happy now because he's allowed to go back to bee school. Norman really loves school. He was so glad to be back at school. I'm sure you enjoy school as well. Until the next story, Red Base. Goodbye. Speak soon. Bye.